This is a story of my college days. I lived in a rented house with my roommate, Nancy. She loved to party. On the other hand, I was always a shy girl. Even though we were poles apart, Nancy always cared for me like a big sister. She used to drive away bullies for me, took care of me whenever I fell sick. This is why I could never say to her. I admired her for being kind-hearted, even after being one of the popular girls on the campus. Our house was on the outskirts of the city. There were hardly 10 to 12 houses in our residential area. Nancy and I used to go to college together in her car. The day was 31st October, Halloween. After waking up in the morning, I went to the kitchen to make coffee. Nancy's bedroom was on the left side of the kitchen. After pouring myself a cup of coffee, I went to check on her to see if she had returned or not. Nancy was dating a guy who was a senior. He had a place of his own at 5 to 7 houses down from our place. She often spends the night with him and returns home early. I never had an issue with her staying away at night because this guy was a nice person, so I knew she would be safe. As I turned to head back to my room, Nancy opened the main door and entered the house. The reason I could tell it was her, because Nancy had a habit after coming home. She used to throw her shoes off on the floor, making loud thuds and calling out for me saying, "Katie, I'm home." Hearing her voice put a smile on my face. Nancy rushed towards me and said, "I have the most exciting news for us." I knew this would be about going to a party tonight. Still, to enjoy the excitement on her face, I pretended to be curious. She told me that her boyfriend is throwing a huge party at his house tonight. It's a Halloween costume party, and we both are invited there. I was never a party animal, but there was no way Nancy would have taken a no from me on this. She is crazy about Halloween parties. Anyways, I also wanted to go out and socialize a bit for a change, so I said yes. She really got excited and said we will go for our costume shopping after lunch. Calling off all other plans for one day, Nancy and I rode in her car and went to the city mall. The mall was quite crowded and the entire decoration was Halloween themed. Almost all the shops had something related to Halloween for their customers. We started to check out the costumes in various shops. After roaming around for about an hour, Nancy and I finally bought our costumes. She wanted to be Harley Quinn and insisted me to buy the Catwoman outfit. I did, and we headed back towards the exit, just when Nancy said she had to pick up some snacks and booze, so we will have to go to the food mart for some time. The food mart was in the basement of the mall, so we got down the stairs. Many boys and girls were already wearing costumes and wandering around the food mart. Everyone seemed busy buying booze for their Halloween party. Nancy told me to wait near the vegetable corner and went to the right side to buy beers. I stood there for 2 to 3 minutes and kept watching everyone in an excited mood. Suddenly, my eyes went to the left corner of the food mart. I noticed a tall guy dressed as the urban legend, the Hookman, standing right after the entrance. His big hoodie over his head kept his entire face in darkness. Being honest, after looking at his hand, I felt kind of creepy. I kept looking at other directions just to understand if he was watching me or not. Every second standing there, I could tell that he was not only watching me, but literally scanning me with his dark hidden eyes. I stood like a statue for 10 minutes, then started to walk towards the alcohol section. I saw Nancy with lots of stuff in her handbasket standing near the billing queue. She was standing behind 2 people, so I felt relieved that we will leave soon. I walked towards her and stood beside her. She looked at me and said, "Thank God you came. My hands are so full. Help me." I quickly hid the tension on my face and hold a few packets. My eyes kept checking every nooks and corner for that guy, but I didn't see him. I thought he might have left with his friends and I overthought the entire scenario. Nancy and I started walking towards the exit after paying the money. As usual, Nancy was talking about the party and I calmed a bit. Just when we were 9 to 10 hands distance from the exit, I noticed that same guy. He was standing near the exit and watching us walk towards him. I really got freaked out this time, but couldn't say anything to Nancy. We kept walking to the gate, and I understood we are going to walk past him. It was the scariest few seconds of my life when I almost reached close to him. My breath grew denser and I was out of words. Just the moment when I was about to cross him, I heard his evil laughter. As soon as we got out of the mall, I hopped inside the car. Nancy started the engine and reversed the car to make a U-turn. He was standing near the mall gate. I didn't utter a single word about him to my roommate. I felt she would think I am making up a stupid story. We arrived at our boyfriend's house and started to put up the decorations and prepare ourselves for the party. The entire evening went in such a rush that I almost forgot about this incident at the mall. I also told myself that it was some drunk freehead who tried to spook me in a Hookman costume. The party started, and the house got filled with crazy college students. Nancy and I drank beer and joined everyone on the dance floor. The spooky neon lights and yellow lighted pumpkin heads all around the house set the right mood for the Halloween party. I was actually having fun, but after a few hours, I started to feel really drunk. The lights all around me with the dramatic decorations made my head feel heavier. So I decided to head back to my place before I end up vomiting and embarrassing myself. I went to Nancy and asked for the house keys. She handed me over the keys, asking, will I be okay to go alone? I didn't want her to miss the party, so I said I will be fine. I also told her that she could stay at her boyfriend's tonight if she wants. She got happier and told me to go home and lock the doors and have a sound sleep. She will come back early and will also fix me some breakfast in bed. She knew I was going to wake up with a hangover. Anyways, I left the party and started to walk down the street. It wasn't a very long walk, but because I was drunk, I walked pretty slowly. I was being careful not to stumble upon a rock and flip on the road. It was 1:30 a.m., hence the streets were completely empty. There was only the sound of the hollow wind passing by. I was almost near the house just when I heard the sound of a twig snapping behind me. I turned around, but there was no one. I thought, my mind is hallucinating due to too much alcohol in my stomach. I opened the main door with a trembling hand. I got inside the house and locked the door behind me. My head was hurting really bad just when I felt the urge to vomit. I ran towards Nancy's room as it was the closest to the main door. Her room was dark, but the streetlight coming from the window helped me to reach the bathroom. I freshened myself up and decided to go to my room to sleep like a rock. As I opened the door of my room, I saw the window was open. I couldn't remember whether I locked it or not before leaving the house, but knowing myself, I thought I might have. My room was too dark. The window was right beside my bed, so I could spot it with the help of the streetlights again. I was in no position to find the switch, so I threw myself over it. I realized the other half of the room was entirely in darkness. I started to take off my shoes just when I felt something move in that darkness. At first I wasn't sure of it, but after a while, I saw something pointy and shining in that darkness. My head had no control over my body, so I just sat there for some seconds. Just when I realized I should turn on the light to check what it is, someone knocked on the main door. This time, I got really freaked out, but after a small pause, I heard Nancy's voice. "Katie, open the door!" I felt so relieved to know that she came back, I ran to the main door, leaving the room at the moment. Nancy came in and said, "I thought I shouldn't leave you alone tonight, so I came back. Are you all right?" I hugged her and said, "I just got a bit scared being alone in my room." She replied in a comforting voice that she will sleep in my room tonight. As we walked towards our room, we heard a loud thud outside. After getting into the room, I noticed the window was closed this time. My head couldn't take it anymore, so without paying attention to anything, I immediately lied in my bed and fell asleep. If you think the story is over, then let me tell you that the scariest part of the story is yet to come. The next morning, when I woke up, I almost had a heart attack. It felt like all my blood had rushed to my face. The wall on the other side of my room freaked me even in that morning light. Someone has wrote on the wall with a sharp, pointy, hook-like object, "Lucky that your roommate came back."
I'm searching for my sister until now. We lived in a small city in Houston, Texas. It was my parents, my younger brother and sister, and myself. Being the oldest sibling, my brother and sister often obeyed me. Taking advantage of my power over them, I ordered them to do little unimportant stuff like telling them to get me a glass of water or having them go get me the TV remote whenever I was feeling a bit too lazy. My parents often kept me in charge everywhere we went. Living in a small city can give one memorable childhood moments, but can also leave someone with a scar for a lifetime. Halloween used to be that one special festival that made our town people go crazy. From wearing costumes to backyard barbecue parties, the entire evening made this day super special for every kid. For one night, we could all eat as many candies as we wanted, and our parents wouldn't tell us no. I was 12 years old, and my brother was 8, and my sister was 5. Being excited for this big upcoming Halloween event, we all went to the city mall and bought our costumes. Our dad took us to some various shops. The day was just a blast. When we got back home, the whole town gathered in the city park and started preparing for the festival. Some families arranged barbecue grills, some put up flags and colorful decorations. Our family made some carved pumpkin heads, and a family in our neighborhood arranged all the candles. After working for most of the evening, we all decided to take a break and agreed to finish the rest of the work by tomorrow afternoon, which was the day of Halloween. After coming back home, I had a quiet family dinner as everyone was tired after a long day. My mother tucked my brother and sister in, and then came and tucked me in after I settled down in my bed. The three of us slept in a big room. My brother and sister's bed were on the left side of the wall, while mine was on the right side, just beside the doorway. Though I picked on my brother and sister, I no doubt loved them and felt like protecting them. Thus, I chose to sleep beside the door, like a big brother. Being the youngest, my sister used to get scared easily in the dark. She sometimes woke up crying, saying she had a bad dream. I'd then go to her and caress her head for a bit to make her fall back asleep. And I would do this while telling her I loved her unconditionally. That night, when everyone was asleep, I woke up hearing a heavy breathing and a soft sobbing sound coming from the other side of the room. I sat up in bed and rubbed my sleepy eyes to have a proper look around the room. As my vision slowly adjusted with the darkness in our room, I noticed my sister standing against the wall, just beside our bedroom window. At first, I thought something came into the room from the window, but I saw that the window was still locked. My sister was breathing heavily and kept staring at me with her frightful eyes. I asked her, "What is it? Why are you out of bed? Is it a bad dream again?" She nodded her head slowly and said in a sobbing tone, "There's a goblin in our backyard, and it's calling me!" I got spooked at first, but then decided to go to the window and check it out myself. What if it's a burglar or someone with bad intentions? Then I might have to tell Dad. I gathered all the courage I had and went up to the window. My sister clasped my hand with her little palm and kept shaking her head, gesturing no. I calmed her down and made her sit on her bed, and then walked over to the window. I saw a small kid wearing a goblin costume, and they were standing in the middle of our backyard, looking straight at this window. At first, I heaved a sigh of relief, as it wasn't actually a burglar. Then I opened the window and said, "Hey, it's too late. You need to go to sleep, otherwise you'll miss the city park celebration tomorrow." My voice was a bit loud, so my dad came back to check on why we were still awake. But when I looked back after explaining everything to him, the kid was gone. I shrugged it off as a small, nothing to worry about incident and went back to sleep. The next day, everyone was running around the entire city. The festival mode hit, and I forgot about all the stuff from last night. Around 5 p.m., after my dad got back home from working at the city park, we all started on our Halloween get-ups. I was dressed as Pinocchio, wearing a fake pointy long nose made from ice cream cones by my mom. My brother and sister dressed as the Shining Sisters, which pissed my brother off as he had to dress like a girl. But after my dad handed us our buckets to collect candy, we all cheered up. When we came out of the house, every little kid in town was dressed as some spooky Halloween character and were wandering around the streets and houses asking for trick-or-treats. I went to our neighbor's house with my brother and sister, and our candy hunting mission began. After collecting buckets full of candy, we decided to go see the fireworks while eating the candy that we just got. The park was filled with kids and their parents. The three of us sat down under a tree and started having a fun time. Suddenly, I saw my sister looking to her right side, and she started breathing heavily again, just like last night. As I followed her eyes, I saw that same Goblin kid from last night about 15 feet away from us. I looked back at my sister and said, "Hey, don't be scared. That's just another kid in a Halloween costume just like us." My sister believed me and she calmed down. I waved, looking at the kid, and the kid waved back to us. The kid started to wave us over with his hand while standing there silently. I got up and went to the kid with my brother and sister in tow. I looked at him and said, "Well, hi, where do you live?" The kid didn't say a word, and only his goblin mask kept smirking at us. It felt a bit unusual now, so I said, "Hey, can't you talk?" But suddenly, the kid did something completely unexpected. He snatched my little brother's candy bucket and started running in the opposite direction. I realized this was a little mean kid, so I kept chasing after him. Seeing me running after him, my brother and sister also started running with me. The goblin kid ran straight to a minivan parked under a dark bushy tree, far away from the crowded park. Just as I was about to grab his shoulder, he elbowed me in the eye so hard that I fell and hit the ground really hard. Suddenly, the minivan's back door opened up and two guys in entirely black attire grabbed my brother and sister and pulled them inside. I rose up to stop them, but someone already started the minivan and closed one door, taking my sister inside. While the other guy tried to pull my brother inside, I shouted, "Leave my brother alone! Let my sister go!" I heard the guy yelling to the driver to slow down the car, saying, "Oh, this one's not a girl, it's her brother! Ah, damn it, stupid Halloween costumes!" The minivan slowed up a bit, and that devilish man threw my brother onto the road. Even though the van was going slow, my brother still scratched up his arms and knees. He even got a bump on his head from hitting a rock on the road. I quickly grabbed him and ran towards the van, shouting for help. But due to the entire area being secluded and everyone so busy celebrating at the park, no one was there to hear my cry. The van started to pick up speed, and that goblin kid leaned to close the other door. Just when he was about to do so, he removed his mask. And I saw it was just this bearded, ugly-looking man. It was probably a dwarf. He started laughing at me in a squeaky voice, and he started to wave goodbye at me as the van disappeared into the darkness. My parents and I are still hopeful that my sister is alive somewhere in this world. My parents still live in the same city, waiting for her to come back one day. I moved to California with my brother, and we filed cases to every police station possible. We kept creating search campaigns for my sister, using every social media platform we could. My brother and I never celebrated a festival again. Not after she was kidnapped by that horrible bunch of thugs. I'm sure that dwarf man must have followed and spotted my sister on the night before Halloween, and then they planned everything out ahead of time for the next day. I'm still so angry at myself for not taking this matter to my parents in the first place, and for chasing a stranger with my little brother and sister instead of going to my parents for help. I pray to God every day asking no harm to come to my little sister. Those horrible men with their preference for kidnapping little girls just... it shocks my heart with fear every day. So, Kathy, if you see this or come to know about us in any way, please come home. We'll wait forever for you. And I'd also like to say to every kid out there on Halloween, or, any day of your life, never go after a stranger without your parents' knowledge.